This is episode 15 of the Wash Talk podcast with Chef Inez and Rachel Pringle. Welcome to the Wash Talk podcast series from IRC. My name is Andy Narracott, and this is the podcast where we open up the discussion on what the wash sector needs to do to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. Thanks for spending some time with us today. Now let's get started. Governments have the responsibility to provide safe water to its citizens. However, for a variety of reasons, including leaking pipes and dirty household storage vessels, the responsibility falls on the household to treat it or to buy it from vendors. And this is the role of the private sector, to respond to this need in the pursuit of profit. And invariably, it's middle to higher income families who become regular customers of these businesses. However, businesses can provide products and services to lower income groups, often referred to as social enterprises, and development finance can be used to encourage these businesses to focus their business on the lower incomes. So today we're talking to two guests who have experience working in and supporting these social enterprises, providing safe water to the base of the pyramid, and which could have a significant role to play in delivering the Sustainable Development Goals. So before we dive in, make sure you head over to ircwash.org/washtalk for the summary of this episode and find other resources to read more around this topic, including findings from the Safe Water project mentioned in this episode. I hope you enjoy. Hello everyone, today I'm talking with Rachel Pringle and Chef Inez about the role of social enterprise in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, and particularly the role of development finance in all of this. So anyway, we've got two great guests on the show. So Rachel is the CEO of Hydrologic, a Cambodian social enterprise manufacturing and distributing water filters throughout rural Cambodia. She has around 10 years experience in the development sector, of which 6 have been in Cambodia. And there she's worked on a raft of initiatives, particularly social enterprise development and microfinance initiatives. So Chef is the managing director of Aqua for All, a non-profit based in the Netherlands that uses a business approach to stimulate and scale financially sustainable solutions targeting the very poor in developing countries. In Chef's long and illustrious career, he's worked and lived in Africa. He's run a water company in the Netherlands and run an industrial water services company for several years as well. So I think between Rachel and Chef, we're going to have a fantastic conversation about how the private sector can be incentivized to target these low-income populations with products and services that they desire and can afford. So welcome, Rachel.
Hi, Andy. Good to be here.
And welcome, Chef.
Yeah, well, thank you. Nice to meet you again, Andy. And also nice to meet Rachel.
Well, great. We can have a good discussion. But I think first off, it's really important for us to be aligned with our guests when we talk about social enterprise. So, Chef, maybe you can begin to tell us what you would call social enterprise in this case.
For me, social enterprise, at least it is an enterprise. So it has to respond to the same business rules as every enterprise, which means that they should go not for loss. If they go for profit, they have to go for profit. What they do is they want to put this profit into a social outcome. They want to create social impact by growing, and that makes them different from commercial entrepreneurs.
And would you agree, Rachel? Is that generally aligned with your belief?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really key point, is that when we talk about social enterprise, that it is primarily a business and has to adhere to the same sort of standards as a business. And although its profits are used for social good, it does need to be profitable. I think in the NGO world, it can often be used to describe something, a project that maybe makes a little bit of money. But as Chef says, it needs to be financially viable and break even at least.
Brilliant. I mean, I don't see many of these businesses around. I think that, the traditional business sense is making profit. But I mean, what is the extent? What does the landscape look like? Is there a lot of social enterprises out there, or I mean, this gets to the topic we're discussing. Do they need to be incentivized to become social enterprises, perhaps? Chef, maybe we begin with you.
Okay. Well, I see a tremendous and very stimulating growth in the number of social enterprises. I think merely because they are triggered also by the Sustainable Development Goals, where we try to achieve a social good in terms of impact that helps us in getting a better planet and improved life. And what I like is that, especially from young people with very innovative ideas, they have a real sound feeling to have a profitable business, but they are very much willing to focus that business on social goods that also create finance streams that are looking for these social goods. And that makes also these entrepreneurs different from commercial entrepreneurs, because they also know how to address new finance streams who are also stimulated by this social outcome they create. But yes, I'm very positive.
Fantastic. And you're so positive. I think Aqua for All was supporting the Safe Water 2 project. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how that supported social enterprise, of which we can then talk to Rachel about who was within that project as Hydrologic. We can hear from your experience. So first, Chef.
Yeah. Interesting question. Safe Water project was very much focusing on what kind of entrepreneurial activities would add safety at point of use. And actually we saw 3 different types of enterprises. We saw the water kiosk enterprises who are providing safe water at the household threshold, either contained or delivered from a tap where people could go to. The second group were the filter producers, the suppliers of filters who have shown to have a great impact on preventing health costs. And the third one were the chemicals, the chemicals that we use, like chlorine, the water salts, the aqua taps. And the chemicals, they were very much used from emergency point of view, health point of view, but not so much from a commercial point. And these three types of enterprises, they had a huge problem in getting the sleeping demand, which is there, into a real demand, in a market demand. And initially we thought that the Safe Water project should help these entrepreneurs to turn that sleeping demand into a real demand. And the funny thing was that the Safe Water project, little by little, gained insights in that it is not just a matter of improved marketing. It was also very much an extension of water services itself. And that brings us to how do people get water? And then from there, how do we get that water safe for use, at point of use? And that was an interesting journey that we made together with the Swiss, and with initially six, and later on a 7th joined, 7 different cases in which we learned not only how these enterprises should do their marketing, but also what kind of distribution channels these entrepreneurs are using. Are they doing it themselves, or are they using distribution channels that are already available? And that was a very interesting insight, because we saw a lot of new distribution channels who are willing to take these devices, these household water treatment and storage devices, into their portfolio. So there was an interesting match between existing distribution channels and the suppliers. That was, in short, what we did.
Excellent. Perhaps, Rachel, you can put some colour to that, to some of the social enterprises. Hydrologic is one social enterprise. Could you tell us about how the product that you sell and your distribution channel as well? And maybe you can tell us a little bit about some of the challenges that you face serving this income group.
Sure. So Hydrologic manufactures and sells ceramic water filters. It's made in country in Cambodia. It's effectively, to look at it, it's like a flower pot, but it's manufactured in such a way that it filters out key bacteria It's also treated with silver nitrate, so it will kill off any bacteria in the water. And it's designed for use in Cambodia, where people typically will get their water from either rainwater harvesting jars or maybe some wells that they have. But often in the drier seasons, they use untreated surface water, ponds and lakes and things like that. So it's very much designed to that context. In terms of our distribution channels, Hydrologic is really focused on developing a direct sales model as opposed to working with retailers or other intermediaries. So Hydrologic currently has 8 sales teams spread across rural Cambodia, and they go directly into villages. They'll set up a sales presentation, which is also educational and designed really to trigger the purchase of a water filter by enabling households and people there to understand and sort of put a cost on the cost of drinking unsafe water. So we have the direct model, and when they go and they sell the filters, it's not just about selling the filter there, it's about the whole package. When they buy from Hydrologic, they not only get the water filter, it's delivered to their home. They can have it with financing, so they can pay over monthly installments. They don't have to have the cash up front. And there's also the service model that comes with that. So there's a guarantee there that if they buy the filter, that there's someone there that will come, will exchange any broken parts, and be there if they need advice on how to clean and maintain the filter. So it's not just a product that we sell, but a full package. I guess the challenges in that model that we've developed that really addresses the need of BoP rural customers is that it's operationally very challenging and very resource intensive. When you've got teams spread out around the country, it's very difficult to recruit, train, manage those teams. And from a resources perspective, sort of operating in this way, it's promoting and selling in rural areas is both time and financially consuming. And we kind of balance, while it is financially sustainable, it's certainly not what a private company would do, where they're looking for easy returns.
Mm. And some of this sleeping demand that Chef mentioned, is that what you're finding in some of the villages, that it's quite an easy case to just sort of activate that sleeping demand, or is it a very hard sell to these customers?
It's a bit of a mix. I think in Cambodia, certainly there is a strong understanding of the need to drink certainly clean water, and that's a result of very long term, over several decades, government and NGO programs that have implemented awareness. So from that perspective, people are very aware. But in terms, they often don't have the funds available to purchase. There are other options, whether it's buying water or boiling water is the most common kind of competition we have. But so people are very aware. So it's not a hard sell from that perspective, particularly in the way we've developed our sales approach, where we sort of, it's a very interactive sort of discussion with potential customers, where we encourage them to talk about the problems that they have with water, the cost of boiling water, the cost of medical expenses if people get sick. So we've really designed an approach that is designed to trigger that sleeping demand.
Yeah, you made an interesting point there about, this sort of sleeping demand, this latent demand that's maybe built up over a number of years, perhaps by government. I mean, Chef, maybe you could come in here. What do you think the role of government is in safe water? And, do they do they need to really step in to help these social enterprises, activate this sleeping demand that they can create?
Yeah. First of all, I think, yes, it is not simply that the government is responsible to provide access to water, but we have a strong feeling that the basic rule should be that governments should finish the job, including provide safety from source to tap. at least like in the Netherlands, it is the utility who is responsible for the safety at the tap. We know, of course, it is impossible. We know, of course, that we need to add an extra device for that. That's why we promote this safe water devices. But we had a very nice experience in Ethiopia, where actually the government took it to her responsibility, and they said it is our mandate to provide health to the people, and we should use that mandate. And that mandate is now executed by the 17,000 utilities in Ethiopia. They have 17,000 utilities in that country, service providers, who took it their responsibility to provide safety till point of use. And that helps enormously, because now all of a sudden the people recognize the use of that filter or the use of the chemicals, because they see it as an extension of the service. And that was for us, at least in Ethiopia. Of course, it is centrally governed, so it is more easy to get it into the veins of the society. But we really liked that approach from the government.
Yeah, and
we see the opposite.
How can the government support those social enterprises? Sorry to interrupt. What is it? What is the message you can give to others, maybe working in government, that are listening, that what they can do to support these social enterprises to, deliver the safe water that they have the mandate to do, like to finish the job?
Yeah, it is not that the government should subsidize the filters. It is not that the government should make the filters. It was in Ethiopia, and we see it now also in other countries, it is for the government, first of all, to facilitate the distribution. And what we did in Ethiopia, and now we are doing it in other countries, is we are helping the government to identify these channels. And that nears very much the channel like Hydrologic is approaching, which is a direct sales model. They have their own sales agents, and they provide the centers and the warehouses and the shops where you can get the filter. The opposite is that you use existing channels like microfinance, or you use existing channels like mobile payment, and then all of a sudden you see internet providers, or you see mobile phone providers, you see them being a perfect agent to sell these products. And what we found in India was that with that, we could easily make a comparison about what is actually the investment, and how would you compare that investment in a filter compared to other things. And like in India, we could easily compare it with one filter, or one jerry can of 10 liters of safe water would equal 3 cigarettes a day. It would equal 10 minutes prepaid mobile phone. It would match with only one bottle of beer. So the interesting thing was that through these kind of distribution channels, we were able to show the people what exactly are you buying, and how do you compare it to other things for which the barrier to buy it is much lower than buying something like safety. And government is now pushed forward through our interventions to accelerate and to enhance this kind of communication. So actually we drifted a bit away from looking at the marketing at the supplier side into the marketing by the distribution side. And Hydrologic keeps it in one hand. That is a very interesting model. But in other cases, these are two different hands. And then it becomes interesting to see where do you put your priority. And we thought it should be the distribution channel rather than the supplier side.
Hmm. Well, you mentioned subsidy earlier, and I think finance is another area that government could assist with. But I'm wondering, we've talked about how development finance have supported social enterprise. I mean, that's what the Safe Water Project is doing, to provide support and really activate that type of business. But we'd love to know how they can then transition to more mainstream finance. I mean, Rachel, maybe you could share some experience with Hydrologic. I mean, if you can talk about how you get your finance to grow, or if you have managed to sort of move off from grants and then onto sort of mainstream finance or maybe impact investment.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, Hydrologic in the early days, just to give a bit of context, was originally part of an NGO and was entirely a grant-funded project. And over a very long period of over 10 years, transitioned from that project into what is now a fully sort of self-sustaining company. So there was grant funding, then there was impact investment, and then. And now carbon finance provides some additional revenue. I think in terms of when it transitioning, I think that was the hard part, effectively, in ensuring that the grant funding that's being received is able to be reinvested in the business in such a way that it's directed towards building and demonstrating a long-term financially sustainable business model, which is then what it enables you to actually qualify for commercial or impact investment. And that can be the real sort of tricky transition, because in terms of looking for impact investment, which Hydrologic did several years ago, you need to be able to demonstrate that it's financially viable. In our case, where we had debt financing, you need to be able to demonstrate that that they're going to get their money back. And in the case of equity investment, that there needs to be at least modest returns. And the key things that they look at is that you do have a credible, demonstrable business model that's being executed, and that you have in place a strong leadership team. You need to be able to demonstrate strong financial management, record keeping, of financial accounts. And in terms of impact investment, they're also looking for very rigorous data on the impacts that's being claimed. So being able to move from an NGO grant funded project to being able to demonstrate all of those things is very, very challenging.
Yeah, and I think that you've highlighted various areas that non-profits or others in the development sector can provide support to businesses, similar to Hydrologic, that can provide training in providing good record keeping, or financial discipline, or customer service, and that can help them qualify for more mainstream finance. I mean, we're slowly running out of time here, actually. So, Chef, maybe a final word from you. What do you think, that the outlook, you said your very positive outlook, but what is the role of social enterprise in meeting the Sustainable Development Goals? I mean, currently, I imagine it's quite small, but there's huge scope, I imagine, for further support to social enterprise and incentivize them, so this whole area of business supporting low-income groups can grow and thrive.
Well, I consider social enterprises as a bilingual entity. They talk two languages at the same time. They talk the language of commercial finance, and that adds very much to what Rachel said. They have to show rigorously. They have to show that they are able to repay the loan or even the impact investor, although he has a long breath. And what they did is that they are able to unlock not only a revenue stream from the sales, because that still takes too long time and too low margins. They created a second revenue stream, which we call the outcome payment stream. And one of the examples are carbon finances, carbon credits, but it could also be NGOs who have an interest in safety, not because they want safe water, but because they want to lower their health costs, or they want to increase access to school for girls, or they want to create employability. And this second, what we call social impact revenue streams, they can easily be combined with the commercial revenue streams from the sales. And the social enterprise is talking these two languages at the same time. That is what I like from social enterprises. And that's how we can make use of subsidies, because then all of a sudden the subsidies are not used anymore to provide a good to poor people, but the subsidies are just to bridge the gap either for the early stage entrepreneur, or the gap for the poorest poor, or the gap for new development and R&D. And that is where blending with subsidy helps create these two revenue streams. And that is the model that we think can only be applied if you work with social entrepreneurs.
Yeah. There's so much to talk on this episode, and between the three of us, I think we could carry on for hours, but we'll have to leave it there. So thanks very much, Rachel and Chef, for coming on. Rachel, thanks very much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Andy. Good talking to you.
And Chef, thanks again.
And thank you for the opportunity.
That was a discussion of the role of social enterprise in serving the base of the pyramid, and how development finance can catalyse more business activity in this area. So thanks to Chef and Rachel for speaking to me on this topic. And if you liked it, make sure you share it via Facebook or Twitter and trigger a conversation. Use the hashtag WashTalk when you do so. So, for example, do you think social enterprise has a significant role to play in meeting the Sustainable Development Goals? Do you know other examples of how NGOs and development finance have supported social enterprise, and to what effect? Looking forward to following the conversation online. Don't miss the next episode when we talk about public finance and accountability. But until then, as always, thanks for listening.